Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to friends and doctors. Today is my time to update you on the status of research project I'm working on. The subject of my talk is component-based checklist framework to improve quality in educational application, supervised by Associate Professor Dr. Shahidah Sulaiman, Dr. Norsham Idris and Dr. Hasnah Mohammed. My talk will be in 6 parts. In the first part is an introduction. Then in this, the second part is SLR. Next is the research methodology, followed by the framework. And finally, I'll go to talk about the evaluation and the conclusion. On the recent work, the evaluation of delivering useful information across multiple education disciplines and students aside to create dynamic, cooperative and collaborative learning. Thus, it may promote more collaboration into flexible zones and interaction between teachers and students. So now we come to the next point, which is the background of the problem. The educational application should focus on the two quality management principle, which is users focus and process approach. Thus, Malaysia Educational Blueprint 2013-2025 as the basis in designing the learning process, and the Bloom taxonomy, which has different objectives, is referred to categorize student skills, and it is easier for teacher to monitor the students' performance and achievement. Now I want to describe about a statement of the problem. For this research, when a novice software engineer is given the task of developing an educational application with little experience other than a little knowledge, he needs skill. The same enjoyment among team members also need to consider guidance from supervisor and bound by the deadline. In this situation, novice software engineer needs a simple and clear guideline so that development can be done, taking into account the requirement of a functional requirement and non-functional requirement. Let's move to the research question. This study has produced 3 research questions, which is number 1 is what are the quality characteristics to be concerned when developing educational application. The second research question is what is an effective solution to guide software designer when developing educational application that meet the 5 concerned quality characteristics. And the third research question is how to validate the proposed work that should meet the 5 concerned quality characteristics when developing educational application. Okay, apart from the research question, the objective of this research, the first one is to identify quality characteristics involved in developing components for educational application. Second objective is to design a framework that integrates software quality characteristics and educational components to guide software engineer. And the third objective is to evaluate the proposed framework for developing educational application that satisfy the concerned quality characteristics and educational components. Let's turn to the next issue, which is the importance of the research, which recent work says that educational application framework and key technology become the focus of attention in education with blockchain-driven smart education. Thus, awareness and define the non-functional requirements at an early stage to avoid some latent problem. Hence, a lack of quality in requirement can affect the effectiveness and satisfaction in achieving the educational goal. Next, I proceed with the research scope. The first one is a system engineer that require reference material and guidance. Second is the user who will involve in the in this research, and the third is system environment. For my case, I involve the educational application will be my third scope, and the fourth is quality characteristic that is in my study. Therefore, to establish the quality characteristic to be studied, this research conducted a study on 12 standard document. 12,
Sorry,
yeah.
can click the hide and the floating menu. Hide the.
Okay. Okay.
Still see the.
I can see any height here.
Okay, done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, therefore, to establish the quality characteristic to be studied, this research conducted a study on 12 standard document, 12 existing work which is from 2015 and 2020s, a survey, 17 respondents were involved, and the comparative study for online educational application which is Sociology, Conversation Starter, Duolingo and QuickMath. These two parts I will elaborate in next slide. So I also adapt a few methods and techniques or approach, which is systematic literature review, GQM strategies, Salero model, Kirkpatrick model, and complexity of evaluation level. There are five quality characteristics need to examine, namely user interface aesthetic, appropriateness, recognizability, learnability, satisfaction, and effectiveness. This characteristic has lied under ISO IEC 25010-2011, where user interface aesthetic, appropriateness, recognizability, and learnability is under the category of software product quality, while effectiveness and satisfaction is under the category of quality in use. So now we come to the next chapter, chapter 2, which is systematic literature review. The review process involves four phases. The first phase is a research question. The second phase, so I prepare, or just now I have shared the research question. Then the second phase is search process using the keyword and search string. So it starts from initial state, initial search, and organized by publication, record the result, and refine based on quality characteristic. And the third phase is inclusion and exclusion criteria. And the fourth phase is a quality evaluation, which the selected articles will be answer the research question. Okay, the procedure of identifying documents via a systematic literature review result in the selection of 50 articles to be included in the study. The initial search, refinement, and eventually inclusion and exclude process are all documented in the search process. As a result, the line graph for the searching process reveals the searching using the keyword techniques. Okay, from the 50 articles selected, 25% answered the research question number 1. 36% answered for research question number 2, and 14% answered the research question number 3. Okay, the discussion for these three research question is I only take a few from my thesis. There are three research questions need to answer. So for research question number 1, they discuss about usability can be described from a variety of characteristics, including the interface design, learnability, and understandability. While for the strength administrators, there are a work that said their product is a new way to deal with numerous help stage, but still have weaknesses. The user must have basic skill in Java programming. For the research question number 3, the discussion said about usability issue need to be solved, such as information arrangement and the content layout, in order to reduce the complexity of the application and assist in ease of use. Okay, now I also share the relationship between each phase phase of document filter, and it found that the refine process has a strong relationship with the exclude process of document, which is above 0.9. The closer the value to 1, the stronger the relationship between the two variables. Okay, let's move to the chapter 3, which is research methodology. Research procedure, I adapt research procedure by Bloomberg et al., which basically lists the activity into 5 steps, which is problem definition and system literature review. But in this research, I add a sub-activity column to detail or to list the detailed step what I'm doing in this research. So refer to Bloomberg, they just list activity column, which is problem definition and system and literature review, then proposal, research design and evaluation, finding and analysis, and the fifth one is a final, which is the documentation. Okay. Now I share the 5 hypotheses that are related to determining the significance of 5 quality characteristics among users of an educational application that is designed using the proposed framework. I need to test the user interface aesthetic, learnability, appropriateness, recognizability, satisfaction, and effectiveness. This study has defined 5 criteria to be evaluated based on 5 quality characteristics. For example, to test on learnability, I need to evaluate how the learning can be improved. How the learning can be improved. In providing the questionnaire structure, this research applied the GQM plus strategy model by Basili et al. They are divided into 2 parts, which is a graph and a map. So this is the graph part, which I have a measurement goal, then the details, what tasks I need to do, and the metric, the metric I need to calculate. Okay, then this part is the strategy. In the strategy, here I have a goal, content, assumption, and a detailed activity. So, as in my experience with GQM plus strategy, I never lost in my research, and the activities is more organized and aligned with research objective. One of the tasks that I include in my strategies is to conduct a survey. In the preliminary work, to gather information on the teacher's feedback about quality characteristic. It involved 17 respondents, where 14 of them had more than 5 years working experience as a teacher. There are 7 questions which include the demographic question. The data has been collected and calculated. Several graphs has produced to visualize the analysis result. For example, here I share on the learnability analysis, which is the result on the mean score for a question related to the best factor to increase students' overall learnability. It shows the highest score stated that the learning process using ICT tools is the best way to increase student overall learnability. Move to another activity, which is comparative study. For online educational application has been compared. The comparison is to prove whether the application has deployed the 5 quality characteristics or not. Several steps were involved, such as select the educational applications after do a justification, select a model to be referred, define and map the comparison code until the step to analyze the result step, until the analyze result. From the comparative activity just now, finding shows that there is a total of 60 comparison item has been done. It shows that 58.82% out of 60 comparison item has consistently implemented the quality characteristic in the application, while 23.53% do not implement any of the quality characteristic totally. And developer should also ensure quality factor are considered when designing and implementing such application. Okay, now we are in chapter 4. This research proposed a component-based checklist framework to improve quality in educational application, or the abbreviated name CCUE, where the first C is a component-based, the second C is a checklist, the small u is forward quality, and E is an educational application. Thus, the word CUE has a meaning as a signal or sign or indication which is indirectly the proposed framework provide the cue. This study has proposed the conceptual diagram. The educational application area consists of functional requirement box and three component consists of three component, which is user interface design, learning, and support. Together with that, it also have some sub-component to each of the component. While the non-functional requirement has listed the 5 quality characteristics, they also include the discipline or rules need to be followed or refer, the process to conduct, user as an agent. Here I have 3 different groups of user to focus: implementation with software engineer and the evaluation with teacher and student. Next, the conceptual diagram has visualized using a checklist. We can see the checklist has three main components, which are user interface design, learning, and support. Each of the component has listed the subcomponent. This one is the functional requirement that already displayed in previous slide. The question mark sign is a guide for user to get more information or guidance. For example, if user click at tooltip question mark, user can read the purpose of the subcomponent, the guidelines, notes, and example. They can get further explanation on each of the subcomponent. The checklist has involved 3 stages: the initial stage, review and refine stage, and latest version stage. Each stage involves activities and evaluation that to be explained in next slide. At initial stage, 3 novice software engineer has involved. They asked to apply the CCUE checklist in their final project for computer science subject at UTM. They was developed 3 different educational application, and they give us feedback as an input for the study. Which is the first feedback is the checklist is good guide, especially on learning material element. Second feedback is the checklist looks simple, clear, and easy to understand. And the third feedback is helpful, especially on formative and summative element. The second activity or the second stage is review and refine checklist. This phase implement onto 8 educational application by students who learn application development subject. They practice an agile methodology. There are 8 groups involved, which each group consists of 4 to 5 students. The checklist has been reviewed and refined at each sprint level, which is about 2 weeks, based on student feedback. Along the way, they are also need to answer 2 sets of questionnaire, where the first one before they start using a checklist, and the second one is in sprint 4 after around 6 weeks. They refer to the checklist. Here I share 3 results that shows the finding from the survey. There are many results actually in my thesis, so here I only share 3. Which is on the awareness on on the awareness to the components that should be included in educational application development. And the second one is the result on awareness about the non-functional requirement. Both results shows a positive response. The third result is on the relationship between each of the question, where we can see the closer the data to one. So the review and refine stage is actually uh, is a process to propose a better checklist. Let's move to chapter 5, is the evaluation chapter. I adapt the evaluation framework by Anderson. I decide to conduct a formative testing because I include wireframe prototype, which is a beta version of educational application named WALS, Web Application Learning for Computer Science. Next, I choose to conduct an online or remote lab testing due to pandemic situation, and there is a moderator who helped me to moderate the test. There are 42 students have involved. Besides, they also have answered a set of online questionnaire. Next, the feedback from the testing was used to calculate the quantitative results. Data from the analysis has been calculated. Frequent table has been produced to find the frequency data which equal to observed data. The third step is to calculate and define the expected data, the degree of freedom, the level of confidence, the critical value. Here I also use the chi-square table and I calculate the p-value. The fourth step were I apply the chi-square goodness for fit technique to calculate the chi-square value and to conclude the result. I present the chi-square value using on the chi-square distribution graph to test on the hypothesis. Here is the list of questions where 42 respondents has answered. It consists of questions that cover user interface aesthetic, learnability, appropriateness, recognizability, satisfaction, and effectiveness. Besides, it also includes a few general questions. Okay, at step 2 actually, since the question is in a Likert format, then I managed to calculate a frequency for each categories. In this slide, show the frequency table for user interface aesthetic and learnability. This is for appropriateness, recognizability, and effectiveness, and this one is for satisfaction. Next, I visualize the frequency data into the line format. There are five graphs represent each of the defined quality subcharacteristic. Okay, at the third step, this study has defined the degree of freedom equal to 4, the level of confidence value equal to 0.05, the critical value I refer to chi-square table, which is equal to 9.49. Then I calculate the chi-square value and the p-value. We can see here is a calculation for appropriateness, recognizability, user interface aesthetic, and learnability subcharacteristic, and 2 more for satisfaction and effectiveness. Then the p-value and chi-square value has used to test the hypothesis. The chi-square distribution graph has been produced. For hypothesis 1, it found that the chi-square value is greater than critical value, which is 9.49, and the p-value is greater than confidence level 0.05. Therefore, for hypothesis 1, H1 is accepted where there is a significant improvement in user interface aesthetic among users of an educational application that is designed using the CCUE framework. For hypothesis 2, which a chi-square value 2 to 9.71, it found that the chi-square value is greater than critical value, and P-value is greater than confidence level. Therefore, for hypothesis 2, H1 is accepted where there is a significant improvement in learnability among users of an educational application that is designing using the CCUE framework. Goes to hypothesis 3. The chi-square value is 184.20. It's found that the chi-square value is greater than critical value and p-value is greater than 0.05. Therefore, for hypothesis 3, H1 is also accepted where there is a significant improvement in appropriateness recognizability among users of an educational application that is designing using the CCUE framework. For hypothesis 4, the chi-square value is 291.37. It found that the chi-square value is greater than critical value 9.49 and p-value is greater than 0.05. Therefore, for hypothesis 4, H1 is accepted. There is a significant improvement in satisfaction among users of an educational application that is designed using the CCUE framework. And the last hypothesis, chi-square value is equal to 204.10. It found that the chi-square value is also greater than critical value and the p-value also greater than critical value. Okay. Therefore, for hypothesis 5, H1 is accepted where there is a significant improvement in effectiveness among users of an educational application that is designed using the CCUE framework. For qualitative analysis, this research used a thematic model analysis, which a step as follow. First, conduct, collect, and compile data from structured interview question. There are 4 respondents, which is a teacher involved in this activity. Second, I prepared the feedback table for 5 respondents for 10 questions. Then the third one is I adapt thematic analysis model to review the feedback which involve code, conduct teams and global teams. And the fourth step is a finding from global teams. Summarized in the thematic analysis for quality characteristic found improving educational application quality as well as increasing motivation and improving abilities in learning activities. For analysis for user interface aesthetic found that the user interface is friendly and simple to use, allowing users to achieve their goals of raising motivation and enhancing their talents in learning activities. Analysis for appropriateness recognizability, I found that this research found that in the setting of technological limitation and drawbacks, the educational application has the potential to boost motivation in understanding, comprehension, and adaptability. For learnability subcharacteristic, this research found that implementation of educational application can assist teachers in increasing students' learnability in versatile and technologically advanced to reduce money, time, and cost. Effort. For satisfaction subcharacteristic, it found that the educational application has the ability to boost user pleasure and loyalty in the context of facilities and infrastructure challenge. And the last one is for effective subcharacteristic. The thematic analysis model with thematic analysis model, this research found that improvement and innovation in the implementation of educational application can minimize teaching effort and time while increasing the application effectiveness and making it more manageable. Okay, this is my achievement during these 3 years. So I have published 3 papers. Okay, to recap the overall progress, actually this research has completed chapter 1, introduction, chapter 2, literature review, chapter 3, research methodology, chapter 4, my proposed work, which is CCUE checklist framework. I'm not yet finished my evaluation. My red car still moving to that pit stop, and the final one should be a conclusion. This research, I like to thanks to Kejora and iCare who sponsored this research. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Norzila, for the presentation. Now, if anyone has any question, comment regarding the research presented just now, you may ask them.
Assalamualaikum Norzila.
Salam betul.
Okay, can you show us again the issues that that your work solved?
Background of the problem, right, Doctor?
The motivation.
Motivation. This one, Doctor? Okay, this one.
Okay, so basically, what issues that you solved, Norzila?
Okay, I tried to produce a checklist to guide a software engineer on the educational application development.
So what is the problem with the education when software developer have to develop the educational apps?
Okay, especially for novice software engineer, they know how to develop educational, they know how to develop application, but they do not know how to develop educational application, which is must consist of learning material, summative assessment, formative assessment. This is the basic component that should include in educational application. Because from the implementation on the three at the first stage implementation to the three implementation to the at the pilot stage, which the implementation by the three novice software engineer, they just develop as like what we develop application. They do not know need to have summative and formative. They know the student need to answer the question, but they can't differentiate which one is summative and which one is summative. So,
Norzila,
yeah, Doctor.
I would like to add on Dr. Razia's question there. When we look into educational application, there are many available technology or framework available in providing help to software engineer in developing such application, right?
Yeah.
From your literature, from your literature review, what are the existing frameworks or similar tools available which can support similar problem that you want to solve, and what are the gaps that still not been addressed by this researcher? Is it correct, Dr. Razia?
Yes, exactly. Because when you come up with the conclusion that you have now, just based on that 3 apps pilot, I'm not sure whether it is conclusive enough. It's very it's quite enough to conclude to the issues that you want to solve here.
Okay. Doctor, actually, the conclusion is not come from this initial stage. The conclusion come from this stage. Okay. I think I missed this slide just now. Okay. The real software then used by a student from one school at Johor Bahru. Then from here, I do the conclusion. So
How about looking at existing solution available by other researchers?
okay, Doctor, actually, I didn't finish yet my evaluation part. So I will do the comparative table to compare my work with other similar framework.
But when you want to design your problem, you definitely did your literature review, right? In your proposal, what
Yes,
are the
yes.
gaps with existing work that you think will help you in designing your problem? And
Okay.
then,
Okay. From my initial research, the existing framework didn't focus on the 5 quality characteristic that I want to examine, which is appropriateness, recognizability, user interface design, learnability, satisfaction, effectiveness. Uh, some of the framework has only maybe they have 3 or 2 characteristic, but they didn't have 5 characteristic that I want to evaluate. That what I get from my initial
so
work.
when you develop the framework, are you developing a new framework or you are based on the existing one?
New framework.
Okay. You need to have a proper justification for that, because there are existing frameworks that are available, and you need to highlight what are the problems with the frameworks and see how you can improve from the framework. Because, you know, when we're talking about educational frameworks, educational application frameworks, the software engineer been developing this for years, you know, since the education using it. So definitely there are comprehensive framework available. Okay, and then another question is, there are many different type of frameworks. Why you choose checklists? Because there are many different type of framework being proposed.
Okay. Okay, I will include this justification in my thesis write-up, Doctor, Prof. So actually, I use a checklist because checklist is something like we easy to understand and refer, and as a student.
Okay, that is not the best way to answer. Bracket the literature and justify it further.
Yeah, that's from that is in literature, Doctor. That is in the literature. I the recent work has mentioned that, but I need to compile again and do in a proper way.
Okay, my last question. How can the software engineer, okay, if they were to develop a new mobile apps, how can they adapt this framework?
Okay, from the experience, the study has shared the checklist to them. For example, I shared my checklist to each student. This is 3 students, 38 students, and this one one staff. So from that, they will because this checklist is in a software format, so they can explore and they can try to understand. Then they can, okay, I show you my checklist. Okay, this is a checklist. So they can learn or they can explore further by clicking the question mark sign, and after they has comply, they can tick here, and if they have any problem, maybe they can discuss among their team.
So meaning they have to, based on their judgment, isn't it?
In not so, because in the question mark here, I provide the guideline actually. Okay, how
So this
to...
is automated or need to be performed manually, separated from the development life cycle.
Oh, okay. The prototype or the low fidelity of this framework, I developed using Excel. So maybe future can develop using
Because
application.
whenever we come up with a framework, normally, there should be a clear guideline of how the developer can actually adopt that framework into the projects. That can show the applicability of the framework, because when you claim this framework is to somehow to help the software engineer to solve some problems. So there must be a clear guideline of how they can actually use your framework in a project. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
This might be my last question. How you define novice software engineer?
Okay. Novice software engineer, based on their experience, Doctor. Because for
What
me,
is in terms of your definition? How you do define them?
The workers after graduate, they didn't have they only have a small experience during their study.
So if you're talking about that, so you cannot use your application development student because they have not been graduate yet. So please properly define your novice software engineer. Okay, and then this is just my comment because I know that might be these are the things that you can consider, because what's so good is you still writing your thesis. When you developing a frameworks for a software engineer, where the input to that frameworks not only come from the educational, it also must come from software engineer as well. The considerations of experienced software engineer in education is helpful in determining what you design are usable for the software engineer. And then how you evaluate also important, how you evaluate versus the user, or should you evaluate versus the senior software engineer or the novice software engineer. So the three groups, how you design, how you develop, how you verify, within these three need to be justified properly so that you not use the user who should evaluate, who should give opinion, who should properly been designed in your research. That is my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof.
A small comment from me about the hypothesis testing. Can you show the slide? You said that the probability value is higher than the significant level. I think you should say actually the p-value is smaller than the significant level.
Oh, okay.
And that's the correct.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Is there any more question? If no, I would like to thank you everyone for the question and comments. And also thank you again, Dr. Hisham, for the sharing, and Ms. Norzila for presenting her research progress. Now we are approaching the end of our curriculum for today. So thank you everyone for joining today's curriculum. Have a great day, stay safe, and see you again in the next curriculum. Assalamualaikum, and you can leave the meeting now.